Now we shall discuss the spectrum of multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children temporally related to COVID-19. We will discuss the epidemiology, pathogenesis, clinical features and the differential diagnosis, and finally sketch a diagnostic algorithm for multisystem inflammatory syndrome. As we learnt in the early days of COVID-19 pandemic, children were noted to have a relatively mild disease compared to adults. However, amidst April 2020, there was an eruption of some severe cases in children with an epidemiological link to COVID-19, following which NHS England issued a warning against such cases. This entity was defined as multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children and adolescents temporally related to COVID-19 by WHO, multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children by CDC, and pediatric multisystem inflammatory syndrome temporally associated with COVID-19 by RCPCH. As on July 31, 2020, over 700 cases have been reported from the world, with a majority of these from USA and Europe, but reports from Asia have also started erupting. From the reported cases, it is clear that this disease predominantly affects previously normal children with evidence of current or past COVID infection and has prominent gastrointestinal and cardiac manifestations. WHO case definition for multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children and adolescents temporally related to COVID-19 requires all 6 of the following criteria to be fulfilled: age up to 19 years, presence of fever for at least 3 days, clinical signs suggestive of multisystem involvement with presence of at least 2 of the following 5 features: rash, bilateral non-purulent conjunctivitis or mucocutaneous inflammation, hypotension or shock, cardiac involvement in the form of cardiac dysfunction, pericarditis, valvulitis or coronary abnormalities on echocardiography or elevated cardiac biomarkers, evidence of coagulopathy in the form of deranged PT, PTT or D-dimer, and acute gastrointestinal symptoms such as vomiting, diarrhea or abdominal pain. Additionally, there must be elevated inflammatory markers like ESR, CRP or procalcitonin with no other obvious microbial cause of inflammation, and there must be an evidence of SARS-CoV-2 infection in the form of positive RT-PCR, antibody test, antigen test or even a contact with a positive case. The CDC criteria is similar, but has some subtle differences compared to the WHO criteria, such as it includes age up to 21 years, it defines exposure to a contact to have been occurred 4 weeks prior to the presentation, and it has a mandatory criteria that the disease must be a severe illness requiring hospitalization. Here we have mentioned a few of the published reports on multisystem inflammatory syndrome. What is noticeable is that this data is the frequent involvement of gastrointestinal and cardiac systems as highlighted previously, with many patients also having mucocutaneous involvement akin to Kawasaki disease. Around 2/3 of the patient test negative for RT-PCR for COVID, but 50 to 90% demonstrate a positive antibody test. Because of the multisystem involvement, these children need close monitoring and may require intensive care support. Immunosuppressants and immunomodulators are the mainstay of treatment. Intravenous immunoglobulin and steroids are most commonly used. The overall mortality is less than 5%. Looking at the epidemiological data related to COVID-19 from March to May 2020 from USA, we see that the peak of COVID-19 test positivity rate was reached in April 2020, but the number of reported cases of MIS-C started rising later. There was a gap of around 3 to 6 weeks between the peak of COVID-19 infection and a noticeable surge in MIS-C cases. Similar findings were reported from Europe. As on 3rd June 2020, only 2 cases of MIS-C were published from India. However, there are several more unpublished cases to our knowledge. These studies had a similar presentation and outcomes as the ones reported from the West, but considering the delayed peak of COVID-19 in India, a surge in cases of MIS-C may be seen from India, especially as clinicians become more familiar with the presentation of the disease and more cases are picked up. Coming to the pathogenesis of MIS-C, several aspects are unclear and are still evolving. What is relatively more certain is that the terminal point of the pathogenesis is cytokine storm. Yet poorly understood, the postulated mechanisms include the following. The most widely accepted theory is that after a SARS-CoV-2 infection, there is a formation of antibodies against the virus by the body, followed by clearance of the virus from the system. Subsequently, there is an IgG mediated enhancement of the immune response, leading to a hyperimmune response, causing a cytokine storm. This in turn causes the characteristic multi-system involvement. This hypothesis is supported by the observation that most patients test negative by RT-PCR for COVID, but have a positive antibody test. In addition, the lag of 3 to 6 weeks between the peak of COVID infection and the peak of MIS-C cases further compound this hypothesis. The second hypothesis predicts that after a COVID-19 infection with a heavy viral load, there is blockade of the interferon responses, as has been seen with other coronaviruses. Subsequently, there is a delayed response to the active infection in the form of an exaggerated cytokine surge causing MIS-C. The third hypothesis states that instead of directly leading to a cytokine storm, SARS-CoV-2 may be acting as an intermediate primer or a co-stimulatory agent, or just providing a portal of entry to an as yet unknown trigger, which is causing the immune response and causing MIS-C. Why this phenomena is occurring predominantly in children and why certain systems are more commonly affected is not definitively known. Coming to the clinical features, fever is a universal symptom and is a necessary criteria for diagnosis of MIS-C. Gastrointestinal symptoms have been reported in 60 to 100% of the published cases and include abdominal pain, vomiting and diarrhea. Patients have even presented with an acute abdomen requiring exploratory laparotomy in a few cases. Cardiac involvement, especially as left ventricular dysfunction, is seen in over 50% of the cases. Similarly, shock is a commonly seen feature seen in 50 to 80% of the cases, and in most series has been seen to be clinically warm type of shock. MIS-C has several features which may mimic those seen in Kawasaki disease. In fact, the criteria for Kawasaki disease may be met in around 40% of the cases. These features include rash, which is usually polymorphous and may be seen on the trunk or extremities. Similarly, these children may have bilateral non-purulent conjunctivitis, mucous membrane involvement in the form of mucosal erythema and strawberry tongue, and swelling over hands and feet. In addition, coronary artery abnormalities have been reported in 8 to 48% of the patients, but long-term data about the progression of these abnormalities is not known. This image shows the typical erythematous maculopapular rash seen on the extremities and trunk. Targetoid rashes have also been described. Other clinical features include neurocognitive symptoms, which can manifest as headache, lethargy, confusion or irritability in a younger child. As opposed to COVID-19 infection in adults, respiratory symptoms are usually not a prominent symptom of MIS-C and may be seen in 20 to 60% cases. Serositis in the form of pericarditis and pericardial effusion, pleural effusion and ascites may be seen in a minority of patients. In many cases, patients may develop multi-organ dysfunction in the form of respiratory failure, acute renal failure and less commonly acute liver failure. Let us now discuss a few differential diagnoses that may mimic MIS-C. Kawasaki disease is a close differential with several overlapping features. However, some differences have been noted between the two conditions. In MIS-C, the children are typically older, usually 8 to 10 years of age, while Kawasaki disease is mainly seen in children below 5 years of age. Gastrointestinal symptoms, myocardial dysfunction and shock are much more common in MIS-C. Inflammatory markers have been seen to be much highly elevated in MIS-C as compared to Kawasaki disease, and thrombocytopenia is a relatively common feature of MIS-C but is rare in Kawasaki disease. Toxic shock syndrome is another close differential because of the presence of multi-organ involvement along with fever. However, a microbiological evidence of Staphylococcus or Streptococcus is necessary for the diagnosis of TSS. Bacterial sepsis and septic shock cannot be ruled out in most severe cases of MIS-C at presentation and needs workup. However, certain features like coronary artery abnormalities are not seen in sepsis. Lastly, in endemic countries like India, dengue and dengue-related secondary hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis has to be kept in mind, especially in the monsoon season, and dengue infection must be ruled out in suspected cases of MIS-C. Multisystem inflammatory syndrome requires a thorough investigation, not only to establish the diagnosis, but to exclude other important differentials and find out the extent of organ involvement. Complete blood count with differential count is necessary and may reveal lymphopenia and neutrophilia along with mild anemia and thrombocytopenia. Levels of inflammatory markers like ESR, CRP, procalcitonin, interleukin 6 are determined and are seen to be universally elevated. Cardiac markers like troponin, NT-proBNP are elevated in 68 to 100% of the cases and indicate myocardial involvement. Liver function tests often reveal mild derangement of liver enzymes and hypoalbuminemia. Renal function tests are done to look for renal involvement. Blood gas analysis is necessary for management of respiratory failure and shock. Coagulation defects are sometimes seen in MISC. Hence, coagulation studies including PTINR, APTT and D-dimer levels needs to be done. ECG is also done, which may reveal STT changes and arrhythmia in case of myocarditis and electrolyte abnormalities, and low voltage waves may be seen in case of pericardial effusion. As discussed previously, sepsis is a close mimicker of MISC. Hence, in all suspected cases of MISC, efforts to find an infective cause must be made. These include blood cultures, urine analysis and urine culture, and workup for malaria and dengue. Additionally, other tests to rule out infectious etiologies such as scrub typhus, leptospirosis, disseminated viral infections may be done when clinically indicated. As you would recollect, the case definition of MISC requires a link with COVID-19 to be established. This is established by the presence of any of the following: a positive RT-PCR for SARS-CoV-2 in a nasopharyngeal or a lower respiratory tract sample, a positive antibody test which may either be IgM or IgG, a positive antigen test for SARS-CoV-2, or even a recent exposure to a confirmed case of COVID-19. As discussed previously, based on the published case series, around 50 to 90% cases of MISC have a positive antibody test. RT-PCR is negative in over 2/3 of the cases. Imaging studies are necessary in patients with MISC. The most important of these is an echocardiogram, which is recommended in all cases at presentation. Echo may reveal depressed LV function in 31 to 58% patients. Coronary artery abnormalities may also be seen in 8 to 48% cases and must be quantified using Z-scores to classify the dilatation. The Z-score calculators are easily available online. Pericardial effusion and valvular dysfunction may be noted on echo. In addition, a follow-up echo is also recommended at 7 to 14 days and 4 to 6 weeks of illness to look for residual cardiac abnormalities, including coronary artery abnormalities. Chest X-ray and CT scan may be done in cases with prominent respiratory symptoms and may reveal cardiomegaly, pleural and pericardial effusion, and ground glass opacities. Ultrasound abdomen is necessary for cases with severe gastrointestinal symptoms and may show ascites and inflammation of the bowel and mesentery. Having learnt about the features of MISC, we propose the following diagnostic algorithm. The first step is to determine if the child has all of the following features suggestive of MISC, such as fever, gastrointestinal symptoms, rash, conjunctivitis, oral mucosal changes, confusion, Palmer erythema, and an epidemiological association with COVID-19. If these symptoms are not present, the child is unlikely to have MISC, and further evaluation for other conditions is done as clinically indicated. If the child has these symptoms, we need to look for features of shock or cardiac failure. The presence of these features makes the possibility of MISC very likely, and these children need to undergo a thorough evaluation. This includes a basic battery of investigations, including RT-PCR for SARS-CoV-2, as well as more specialized tests, such as tests for cardiac function and levels of inflammatory markers like ferritin. If the child does not have these features of shock or cardiac failure, initially only the initial investigations needs to be done. If these investigations are suggestive of diagnosis of MISC as described previously, then the further more specialized tests would be done. In the initial investigations are not compatible with the diagnosis of MISC, then other conditions need to be looked for while monitoring carefully for evolution of new symptoms. To summarize, here is a pictorial representation of the features of MISC. Children have fever along with conjunctivitis, rash, swelling of palms and soles. They often have nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain and diarrhea with mildly elevated liver enzymes. Cardiac involvement is prominent with elevated cardiac biomarkers and echo abnormalities. There may be headache, meningismus and lethargy. Respiratory involvement in the form of hypoxemia and pulmonary infiltrates, although rare, may be seen. Blood tests reveal thrombocytopenia, neutrophilia and lymphopenia and elevate inflammatory markers, and importantly, there is a lab evidence of current or past SARS-CoV-2 infection or a history of exposure to COVID-19. Thank you.